Welcome to part 2 of our Astrology Talk with Minister Kailyn Davillier.
That was a lot. That was a lot happening.
Mercury was doing a lot. I predicted it, but I knew April, August, and December was gonna be what it was. Like,
Yeah. Leo and Saturn was too much for me. That was enough. That was way too much.
I called the April because we had the eclipses as well with Aries and Libra. So Mercury and then like the North Node with the eclipses. I knew it was gonna be rough, but it was every week. It was every week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for me, it was the people that I cared about. It was collectively, um, things in like the city. And I just knew people just need to stay inside as much as possible. If you go to work, we had a flood, we had like a flash flood, like there were like lots of things happening weather-wise. And I was just like,
We had an earthquake.
yeah. And I think it was the same week. If I'm mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm looking at the little YouTube biddies. And I was like, nobody was talking about this on a collective level. I think other things were happening in other parts of the world with weather. If I'm not mistaken, like in Europe, I think there were like flash floods in like Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nobody was talking about this though.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that every astrologer needs to like get it right and like be perfect and have this precision. But what I am saying, what I am preaching against as an ordained minister is that this push to, again, Neptune and Pisces, like push for things to be so positive and like looking on the bright side with the astrology needs to stop.
Yeah.
It needs to stop. Because the things that we're dealing with and what I'm talking about, especially what I'm going to talk about with Saturn in Aries, like this stuff is very uncomfortable collectively. This affects us all in some form or fashion, and it's going to be uncomfortable because of the ways in which our governments are doing the things that they're doing to push people to remain in delusion that things are okay, and things are not okay. And I just want people in the spiritual community to just be about that and just say that. Just say, look, like this is not going to be comfortable astrology the next year or next 2 years or however long, because it's not. It's not. And Pluto in Aquarius really is pulling all of that up. Pluto was saying this is not going to grow underneath, so I need to pull it back up. And if we're talking about Aquarius, we're talking about how we connect with people, the structures or lack of structures that we're able to take care of one another.
Yeah.
So by the time Pluto and Pisces comes here,
I thought about that and I was like, wow, Pluto and Pisces, that's a lot.
I'm already like writing things about Pluto and Pisces, but I am trying to make sure I stay very focused on the future or the current with Pluto and Aquarius. But we're gonna be older. We're gonna be the elders. Pluto and Pisces.
I'm definitely gonna be an elder.
But you know what I mean? Like we're gonna be in our like 50s to 60s. We're going to be regarded as elders and leaders. And my issue is if we don't get this shit right, the first 10 degrees of Pluto first. That's what I've been saying the last 5 to 7 years is Pluto and Aquarius will be and can be really great and powerful. Even the Saturn transits are going to be really good in terms of like good for us if we're doing the work. If we're refining the discipline for the success of our humanity, for connection with one another. But I can't look at Saturn, which will be in Aries May 24th, will retrograde in Aries July 13th. So again, we're still looking at these cusp of time that are literally between the spring equinox and summer solstice. We're looking at these little aspects of seasons of time, right? That's a full season. It will retrograde back into Pisces September 1st, and then it will go direct November 27th. So again, we have a preview year, Saturn and Neptune. And they're happening during these particular degrees of the wheel of the year. There's supposed to be this like flourishing, grateful, I would even say communal times of the year where we get back together, we come out in the summer, we connect with people, we ask people to connect. As summer babies, we know like a lot of people use it as their vacation time. They want to vacate and leave behind. We're just like, I'm just celebrating the fact that I've been here and that I made it to my year, you know, like so seeing that these two planets that are both kind of opposite, right? We have Saturn that's like, hey, I really need to see the structure. I need to see you doing the thing. We're getting a preview of it direct, right, in the first few degrees, and then it's going to go retrograde in summer. These two are going retrograde when Mercury will also be in retrograde in July. In Leo.
I was giving, isn't it in Leo?
Yeah. It's finished. It's going to be finishing up. We're finishing up the fire sign energy. So it'll be doing the fire to earth sign kind of thing. So Saturn and Neptune, oh my gosh, like things are going direct, guys. And I'm like, y'all, like these outer planets are like, I'm showing you a little bit of these degrees. Take notes. And that's what we do as the spiritual people. We stay in tune, we take our notes. And then when things are retrograde, we're like, okay, cool. This is how we take our quiz. Right? But collectively, what are the quizzes? What are the markers? And then, we start doing our thing. We start seeing how to experience that. So for me, Saturn and Aries, I am predicting that Aries, again, has a lot to do with feeling excited about starting something new. Saturn is like, hey, like there's this opportunity for you to grow and to build something that can last outside of you, which still has a lot to do with connecting with people, right? Because if we're building something that lasts outside of us, that means that other people are there to pick up. That's very Capricorn energy. That's why I try to remind people Capricorn energy is not really masculine. It is it is nocturnal. It does things that you don't really see. And that's why Capricorn energy is so like life-giving and legacy supporting, because it's thinking about the others that come after them or even with them, which is why it's really good for Capricorns to be on that team that is dedicated to that long-term vision. So when I see Saturn in Aries, I'm like, okay, I do still think about aggression. I do still, even with Neptune, like people clicking out, outbursts, and on a collective level, on a government's level, like I do see some things in the summer just popping off. And I do think about how we're handling the fact that we have pandemics, we have food shortages, we are not treating people the way that we should in the workforce. So we're going to force them into the workforce and keep them in the workforce. So that's where boundaries too and restrictions come in as well. How are our trusted government, and I say this with quotes because nobody can see me doing the quotes, but it's really going to be impactful for people who are wanting to make change, because we have to, as a collective, really get it together with this Aries energy. We have to use Saturn. We have to use the cardinal energy very well and very cohesively if we're going to make an impact. Because again, Aries is a cardinal sign. It's literally the beginning. It's the start of the zodiac year for a reason. But we start with fire. We start, even in tarot, both of us are tarot professionals. We're starting with the wand.
Yes, it's active energy. What are you putting into action? Do you have a plan to put in action? Where's the structure to put in action? You can't just move without a plan.
Just why Neptune and Aries, I'm like, I have wands, babe. Like what? Like where am I hitting? If I got a rocket ship of me sent straight to Neptune and I'm just there with my wands or my creative will and determination, because that's what they represent, maybe I can't see nothing. Where's the vision? So we're gonna need Saturn in Aries to assist with that. We're gonna need Saturn to be like, where's the vision? How are we looking at Saturn and Neptune coming into the same sign at the beginning of the zodiac with this cardinal energy of fire, cardinal energy, fire starter energy? But where's the vision? What's the goal? So having Saturn and Neptune wherever your Aries houses are in your personal chart whatever chart you're looking at, your natal chart, obviously. For me, I'm, looking at my relocation charts and your progress chart. A lot of people do their sun chart. They have their sun in the rising. And they look and they dictate there. They do their moon. It's the same thing. So it's like, where's the vision? Because Saturn and Neptune are going to be like, if you don't know, I don't know. Aries is like, if you don't know, I don't know. I'm going to the next activity. I'm going to the next project. So we need to know where we're going, what we're doing, how we're doing it, who we're doing it with, and who to delegate to continue and help assist with that. So that's my take on Saturn and Neptune and Aries, especially because, I was telling somebody and they were like, no, it's not going to be till 2026. I was like, but it's still going to be direct for a little, it's going to be stationed there for a little bit. That 3 months, like a habit has formed, like a lot of people's lives can change in 3 months. That's a probationary period for a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, in capitalism, like your life can change in 3 months, literally because you lost a job, you have to get another job, or your vision for your life changes, getting pregnant, like all of these like milestones, like legacy. You can get married, you can meet somebody, you can end relationships, you can sever ties with people, you can take a stand for something. Saturn and Neptune doing this nice preview introduction, and it's like, just because it's 3 months don't mean shit can't change and shit can't really snap. And then it's going to be maybe 2.5 to 3 months for sure retrograde too. So whatever is shifting, like you get a chance to reassess and look, because when it does come in station direct in 2026, did you learn? Did you actually apply that for the 4 to 6 months that it's showing you that preview?
Yeah, you made it click for me. Yeah, it's direct and it's only going to be a sneak preview, right? The trailer. But that's going to give us inside scoop on what to expect. So in those 90 days, we're supposed to be taking notes and observing, as you say, observing how the transits are interacting in our house. Like, how is it getting comfortable being house guests? Then it's going to go back to the other house for another elongated period of time as it is transitioning and clearing and reminding us of other things. And then once it's done packing up all of its furniture and all of the other things and ready to move into the house moving forward in 2026, now we can start putting things away. Like, are you ready for me? Did you prepare? Because I gave you a sneak preview. Did you prepare? Because I'm putting my furniture up, putting the pictures up. We're going to be here for a minute.
And that's the thing. That's why I try to teach it that way when I'm looking at somebody's chart, because once it leaves retrograde and it goes direct in the sign that it's leaving, what are you saying goodbye to, or what are you taking with you as it moves with you? What are y'all taking together from this previous house? What remains, especially with Saturn? What shall remain? What can remain that will be helpful to you? There are things that you have to leave behind. And there's a hurricane survivor, multiple major hurricane survivor, fires, having to move multiple times throughout my 20s. Like literally all of my 20s, I moved several times a year. That is something I'm very familiar with.
Yeah.
The wind changes quite often in my life, and that's for another chat. But there are huge transitions in my life that I have had to do, and I have had to leave behind so many things. But the memories and things like that linger, and there's a lot of grief with that. There's a lot of like, I didn't want to have to say goodbye to this.
Yeah.
But those retrograde periods are like, baby, what are you going to have to say goodbye to? And especially with Saturn, it's like, you got to think about the long-term goal. Like there are people that we're going to be separating from. There are going to be systems of oppression, because we got to be working with Pluto. Pluto's going to be here for 20 years.
Yeah.
So how is this interacting in your personal chart? And again, for the collective. So Yeah, Saturn and Neptune. It's
It's giving me a lot to think about because in my personal chart, Saturn and Neptune have been transiting my fourth house. And a lot of people don't know this, but I moved 3 years ago. I moved out of my grandparents' attic into a house. My mother and I were renting a house, and our lives shifted in what felt like a blink of an eye. And 2 years after we moved, we both had to move back home. And that's a huge shift, especially for my mother, because she hasn't lived home in like 40 years. She hasn't lived here in 40 years. I lived in my grandmother's attic for 6 years before I ended up moving back out. So I never actually moved out because there wasn't enough space for me to put all of my things. Like I need my own 1-2 bedroom apartment. Like I need my own space, my own little townhouse or what have you, because as a single woman, I've accumulated things. So trying to share space with people is just not going to work because I learned that I have to expand. And I guess that's the Jupiterian part of the Pisces. Like I have in my house, I have to be able to expand. I have to be able to branch out and grow. I can't restrict myself. And I know sometimes Saturn has that restrictive area, but I think the restrictiveness for me in that space was, well, you want to expand, but you don't have no boundaries. So where are your boundaries? Because you can't expand if you don't have boundaries.
right. Yep.
You expand. How do you have boundaries with your maternal lineage? One. So how do you create boundaries there? Because that maternal lineage is there. How do you create boundaries with how you're interacting with your ancestors and your roots and that lineage? How do you create boundaries or shift things generationally? How do you change the course of certain things? So it's like, yeah, you want to move back out, but like, what did you learn?
Oh,
Like I'm sitting with that. Like, yeah, sure, you could move back out. Okay, yeah, that's cute. Fifth house, yeah. Creativity, childlike wonder, play. Yeah, that's
yes.
what did you learn?
Right.
What did you learn here?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, like actually, what did I learn and how am I going to bring this to the new house?
Yes.
You have to, and that's why a lot of people separate the sun signs so much. And we have to remember that we learn from every single sign.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Even Aries has some remnant as a baby of its life in womb in Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
Aries does. Aries doesn't just forget. Aries energy remembers what it was like to be cradled and held and secure and protected
Mm-hmm.
in the cosmic womb of Pisces. There is no forgetting that. There is no forgetting that. And so that is what Saturn and Neptune are going to be asking us, is to remember, what did you learn in Pisces when I was sitting here chilling for 2 to 3 years for Saturn, Neptune longer transit, but what are you learning? Because you don't forget that just because you become the baby. Oh, I'm innocent, I'm crying, I'm screaming, and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do it. You're the cardinal fire. Aries is cardinal fire energy. So what are you starting? How do you begin to walk in this next house, right? How are you walking into this new house with Saturn in Aries, with Neptune in Aries?
Yeah.
Trusting your intuition, knowing that you're being guided to a long-term goal that you can trust and that you can navigate the skills and hone your skills with Saturn. That's the restriction. How are you honing these skills? Because then when it goes retrograde, you're going to be like, okay, this is a reassessment. How do I handle this? I'm going backwards. I'm reassessing. Like, you don't feel secure yet because it's not station direct.
Yeah.
It is not stationed there ready for its next transit. It's just like, I'm just letting you know, like, this is what I'm going to be asking of you.
Uh-huh.
And that's Saturn and Neptune. Neptune is going to be like, I'm asking you to trust your intuition because a lot of the shit you're not going to figure out. I'm not going to give you the plan. Saturn can give you the plan. And we're going to have to work in our personal charts to trust that. So you have to use them together. Neptune may not be comfortable in Aries, Saturn may not either, but there's cardinal relationship there
Yeah.
that I really do think can be used in a way that will give people a sense of direction while trying to navigate Neptune.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here. It seems obscure, but like you have to trust that you're going to be protected and you're going to learn about your creativity. So like creativity, like spurs of that, I think come up even collectively, probably navigating this AI shit, navigating like, think of Aries like in the 3D world or the 3D realm. Like I think of the wands, but I think of like how you show your determination, like how do you like show up for yourself, starting things that need to be started in your life, and sitting with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting a preview, but you're still held accountable. It comes in Stations Direct next year.
Yeah.
It's not there yet, but we're getting the opportunity
Uh-huh.
to be presented with a new aspect of ourselves in, again, like the start of the zodiac. With Aries, we get to feel comfortable with that energy. And again, we figured out it's starting in springtime, especially for Neptune. Like it's starting in that literal season,
Uh-huh.
which can be really good because I'm not sure if it's going to station direct in the next season. I don't have the dates up yet, but we're just trying to focus maybe on this year. And I don't think we're going to get an opportunity like that. It was the same with Pluto and Aquarius. Like Pluto and Aquarius, the sun, Mercury, the new moon that we just had, that was the first time we've had everything in Aquarius with
Yeah.
Pluto.
That was
And that felt different. It hit different. This new moon hit different.
It did. It did. It really did. I was very much energized, and I had been exhausted for weeks because it snowed here in Jersey, and it wasn't like a lot of snow, but it was enough where I had to shovel my house because I ain't no man. So I got to do it. Ain't got no man out here. I got to shovel the snow. And I ain't got no snow blower either. So I got to shovel and salt and all that other stuff. So, you shovel around a whole house, that's a lot of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no matter how much you exercise or what have you, that's a lot of work. And it's tiring. It's tiring. It's a lot on the body. And it was a lot of activity happening, like constantly having to shovel, moving cars, all the things. So I had been very exhausted leading up to the new moon. And that day I was like, okay, I'm like wide awake. Like a little fairy, just wide awake. But sleep this whole time. And I mean like deep sleep. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to go take a nap. And it's like, 3 hours later, like I'm having deep, deep sleep, very lucid dreams. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. with the perimenopause crew, and we're all up in the witching hour, having conversations on threads.
Yes.
Going back to sleep again for another 4 hours. Like it's just very like the body. It just felt like for a lot of us, the body really needed that time to like rest and receive and decode and go through all of the changes, the cosmic changes, the ethereal changes, in order for us to move forward. So
Yeah. And I wonder too, since it's also in, the Chinese Lunar New Year, like I wonder if like snakes have that kind of hibernation period too. Like I wonder how certain reptiles navigate the winter because they're cold-blooded. I wonder when their hibernation periods are. So I knew like I wanted to check in and tap in on that, but I was like, oh, I like pinned it on the day of because I actually had to work on the new moon. And for me in my time zone, it was just at like the end of my work day. So I was like writing and tapping into like trying to journal because, ritual for me has changed. It has to change as I travel, which I'm still like where are my things? I need my things, but I'm giving myself the space to change with that too. So props to you, first of all, for like shoveling snow around a whole damn house. Like legit props to you for that. Cause yeah, fellow single woman, independent woman out here, little Boosie, like everything, like I-N-D-E-P-E-N-D-E-N-T, like that very much. It's my Louisiana coming out, but like, like that, props to you for not just because like it's part of survival, but like knowing that you really put everything into that, and you got to do it to survive, to stay not trapped in your damn house. So
You got to. And I was outside at 9 o'clock at night because if I didn't go out at night, the next day it was going to be ice. So I had to, like, there was supposed to be some man that was supposed to come the next day. I ain't got time for that because by the time he come over here, it's going to be a sheet of ice in this long ass driveway that I have. We have to be able to step outside because we use the back door instead of the front. So we have to be able to step outside. If that's ice, somebody's gonna bust their ass. I'm the most able-bodied person. We all disabled, but I'm the most able person in this house.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Props to you. Like, props to you because yeah, being the most able-bodied person in the whole house is literally disabled. It's like, how are we gonna do this? But this is why capitalism is not the move, because hibernation, that's why I'm wondering about like the snakes. Like I'm wondering, like, because hibernation was like you were able to stay away and you were taken care of and you could survive until the solstice or the equinox or whatever, and you can see that the ice has melted, literally the snow has melted and traverse back out into the world. Capitalism doesn't afford us that.
It does not. It wants us to be outside in weather that we actually shouldn't be outside in because it's 20 degrees outside. I don't need to be outside in 20-degree weather. What do I need to be in your office to do what? I could do this in my house. What I do in your office and what I do in my house are not two totally different things. I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing it. If I'm a bullshit at work, I don't care what environment I'm in. The environment is not going to change. You looking over my shoulder is not going to make me not bullshit at work. That's just going to make me more strategic. Okay? So, like, if that's what I do.
Especially us on the spectrum, biddies, like, we just go find other ways to figure it out. Like,
our lifestyle here. So you got people that be bullshitting on the job. You think because you over their shoulder, that's going to, whip them into shape. No, they just going to be strategic because we got to be 20 steps ahead of y'all. We have to be. We can't be in lockstep with y'all. That's not going to change.
And I have tried so many jobs and so many phases of myself, aspects of myself. I'm like, damn, that's how I was trying to survive, or like that's how I was trying to survive at this job, because I like had multiple jobs at the same time in the service industry, and I was just like, oh, I can be Kailyn here, but I got, like there were just so many facets of that. And yeah, I think
that's too much.
Yeah, that's definitely changing with Saturn and Neptune going into Aries. I really think there's
That's wonderful.
a sense of newness for sure. I mean, I've been cracking down on that. I think like for sure, like 5 years ago, like when the lockdown happened, the first lockdown happened. But essentially, like, I think the houses that it's in for me natally, I'll be tapping into that. But the relocation chart is like basically Aries is gonna be in water.
Oh,
Like the fire signs are in water, like houses.
oh,
Even with a whole new rising sign in my relocation chart.
oh.
So me and Aries are gonna be it's gonna be interesting. the way that even just my like offerings and things like that as a practitioner, as a ordained reverend.
Look at
Now, a lot of yes, Minister Kailyn. It's still getting used to the name, but even in both with both of these charts, like Jupiter and Pluto are in like the 10th house. So natally, one is doing one thing, and relocation chart, another one is doing another thing in the 10th house. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Not worried. No, I think these are houses that they're like 8th and 12th houses. I won't get into specifics, but essentially with the Taurus rising, you can assume that the Aries is in the 12th, and then, my relocation chart is different, but 8th and the 12th house is just like, it's in that quadrant too. Like it's above, it's like, that's the daytime. Like that's where we show up in with the collective. It's about others. So yeah, just to kind of like tie into you talking about where you are, like you're going to be dealing with this in the lower part of your chart. So that quadrant is more internal. So you're going to be doing things, not the rolling of the eye. It's not the hard roll. Just
do I need to be another shadow space? Right.
It's not a shadow. You're especially if you're moving into like fifth house stuff, that's going to be where you learn, hopefully, to like feel comfortable to be out and play and to share those, but you're sharing that inner child part of yourself though, that needs to be nurtured. We'll probably get into that on our personal time. But like, so you're dealing with Aries and that part of your chart and that sector of your chart. And yeah, like you're going to have to get comfortable playing with Saturn and Neptune where it's going to be.
That's a very interesting time. I do feel like, particularly with Neptune there, that it's going to be a very creative transit for me. And I feel like I will be accessing my creative energy from a very ethereal place because Neptune is very esoteric. It'll be trine my natal Neptune, which is in Sag.
So again, it just seems like there's, especially with fire, like, what does that look like for you? Like, what will that feel like?
Yeah.
Trusting your intuition. It's ethereal, but you still have to have some kind of guided compass to trust, to navigate. And then Saturn's going to be like, you remember you had this little like foreplan, right? Like you got this new project, or you have this new goal, or you have this new thing. Okay, how you got your inner compass? Like, where are you going to let it take you?
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting for me because it especially for anyone who's listening who has challenges with control and taking your hands off of things and not trying to orchestrate or trying to orchestrate perfection and being okay with uncertainty and being led intuitively down your path. That is going to be a challenge. Not necessarily a struggle, might be a struggle for some of y'all, but it is definitely going to be a challenge for me because with me having ADHD, I need to know what I'm doing. And that gives me, like, it anchors me. It gives me confidence to know what I'm doing. But if I'm following my intuition, like I know, like internally I know, but it's not finite because intuition is broad.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like definite because things can change. Like intuitively, you're following what the feeling is. You can say things, but you're following with the feeling. Your moral compass is a feeling, and it's following the frequency. It's following the pull, but that doesn't make the direction finite because you're gonna switch, twist, and turn, and pivot, and you're gonna pause here. So especially when you hit the pause, it's like, okay, I'm pausing. What am I supposed to do in the pause? Bitch, pause.
Right. And with Saturn And with both of them, we've been talking about the preview, they're both going to pretty much pause where it stops, and they're going to go retrograde, and they're going to go back to Pisces. So when it goes forward in Pisces again, you're like, oh, pause was the pause. Now we have to move forward. Where is this? Where's this taking me? I think the Saturn aspect of that, though, is saying you need to plan for the pause. That's a boundary too. You say we have to remember that Aries is cardinal. Aries starts things. Aries is at the start. So Aries does start, but like you mentioned, delegate. We've been talking about that with the cardinal aspect. Who do you delegate?
Yeah.
Because Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, I'm not saying that they don't see things through, but when we're talking about at the genesis of something, at the start of something, that's why we have the other signs and the other frequencies, the mutable, the fixed, to finish and complete things and see things through. That's why these signs are not so separate. That's why I don't teach that they're separate. I especially when we talk about the opposition, I've preached this, and I would love to just get it out there at some point, but maybe like a YouTube video. But this opposition thing, like making it seem like they're just like polar opposites and they have nothing in common, is absolute. It's just not.
I agree.
I don't know who started it. I don't know why this stuck around with the resurgence of astrology in particular within the last 15 years. But I will say, because we have Aries starting something, I don't think that it means that, especially in Saturn, right? I don't think that it means that it starts something and it doesn't see it through. I think Saturn and Aries may be teaching us to plan for the hiccups. How do you handle this if this does not go the way that you want it to? Let's say you set a goal for yourself in 2026 when Saturn goes direct and stations direct in Aries and Neptune. I think Saturn with Neptune, Saturn is going to say, this is, because it's still going to retrograde, even when the station's direct, it's going to retrograde, but it's going to retrograde in Aries.
Yeah.
Where is the time to say I need to stop? Or when this goes to this nexus or plot twist or whatever, plan for the plot twist. We're talking about Saturn and Aries, unpredictable, fiery, cardinal energy. The impulses. You have to know where your boundaries are. You have to know if you're an addict or you're addicted to not finishing things, if you're addicted to putting things on hold just because there is a plot twist. Saturn and Aries, I really think is going to be challenged in itself to be we have to plan for this stuff. We have to plan for the impulsivities. Okay, cool. If we have another idea we want to do, can we finish this to a certain point and put it here and maybe delegate it to my team or delegate it to my astrologer in my friend group? Or you know what I mean? I think there's going to be a lot of Saturn and Aries is going to be asking you to just start delegating, because there's going to be so many things you want to do and want to keep up with as you deepen your trust and your intuition in yourself with Neptune. Because you'll get lost.
That makes sense.
So that might be a preview for some people. I don't know if I'm hitting that or preaching to somebody, but
I feel like that makes sense, because at some point, let's say it's 2027, 2028, when Saturn transitions into Taurus. Well, Taurus is going to keep you on task, because that's all fixed signs do. That's all we do as fixed signs. We just keep you on task.
That's all we about. Yeah, you started this. Okay, cool. We're coming to finish and clean up. We're coming to the office. We're wiping down windows. We're, making sure the paperwork gets filed. It gets sent through. We're redoing it if it needs to come back through, because we fix it. We fix it. We fix it.
We fix it. We're the fixers. We got fine tune it. We got you make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And where does this idea go? Because you had this idea here, and that's not making no sense. Maybe we need to think this through a little bit more. I know you're moving around, but can we focus on this right here?
Yep. You're right. And that's Pluto and Aquarius too. Pluto, I mean, Aquarius is a fixed sign. I mean, and we're Leos, and you and I talk a lot about like Leo and Scorpio energy, how they work together. Like Scorpio is like I see because it has that Mars, but it also has that Pluto energy. It is looking microscopically at everything. And Scorpio, when they're in their bag, they're like, can we do this over? Because we got to get an oil change. We got to, like there's certain things that the mechanics of how fixed signs work is we show up to make sure everything is squeaky clean before we send it off to the mutable.
We are the saying, be stubborn with your goals, flexible with your methods. Fixed signs are the stubborn with your goals.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Said you wanted to do this, let's do this. We figure out how we get there, but you said you wanted to do this, so let's focus here.
And even with ourselves, like a lot of that introspection needs, like the needs come up because then you're like, wait, no, I did say I wanted to. Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. And then you're like, oh.
Right. Did you end up checking yourself? And so I this is good because the way you explain Saturn and Aries, it's holding us accountable for all this newness and creativity and things that are exciting us in this moment, this new beginning, this new landscape that's in front of us, this new canvas that's in front of us. And we may just want to intuitively splash paint everywhere. And then Saturn is like, I know you want to splash paint, but what do you want this to look like?
Yeah. What does this end up looking like after some introspection? Because again, the restriction doesn't have to be that like, oh, I don't like go out and do things. But I would even say like just with the painting, like, okay, the restriction can be, okay, we're doing all the splitter and the splatter in a month. Can we
sell it?
Right. Or like, can we like focus on these colors more on this side, on this aspect of the canvas? I think Saturn and the restriction is just like, okay, let's put this to the side. Like we can work and work and work and work and work and work. I could be painting and dirty up everything, and that's great. When is the time for reflection? And that will be the retrograde time. That will be the reassessment. Let's reassess. Like, okay, cool. This canvas is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I was intuitively led. Neptune got me there, but it's like, I need to have a schedule.
Yeah.
So it's okay to paint and splatter and do all this stuff from this time to this time, or this day and this day. And then I take a break on Wednesday, or I take it, I have a Sabbath day, or I have a specific time where we're going to do this, but we're not doing this every day and all week. Because that's Capricorn energy and Aquarius energy, just working and working and working and working and working and not giving back to yourself. There's no time for reflection. So restriction can be just reflection time. I just need time away from this project. I need time away from this community group. I need to also look at the goals that I have for myself. I do this certain thing really well and it's, keeping me happy. But what's this other skill? That's what Saturn is about. What's this other skill that I haven't even touched? Got books with foreign languages. I want to learn language. I want to learn this. I want to learn that. You haven't even cracked open the book yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking a step back and reorganize. Like, yeah, you want to do all these things, but like, let's build a bridge.
I got a bookshelf, and as someone who, hoards books and things like that, I've had a lot of books and things like that. I've never cracked the spine of certain books. But that's why I can say now, I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional astrologer, professional tarot reader. I'm an ordained minister. It's like, these are things that I'm like, I've always sat with. I've always been like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to lead. I want to do retreats. I want to do these. There are things that I hadn't even, until I got that certificate. And I was like, oh yeah, that's okay, Saturn. Thanks. That was the accomplishment, right? That's something long-term that will never, that title is mine.
Yeah.
That's my title. Reverend, minister, that's my title. I should have been had, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, but with the way Saturn and Aries and Neptune and Aries specifically, those two planets are going to be in Aries. Like I said, in the charts that I'm focusing on right now, my natal and this relocation, I'm like, that's why. It was at the right time. And now I have to, okay. All right, Aries. So now I know what conversations I'll be having with my house guests for their transit. Because I was like, oh yeah, like there are just things you gotta start. You just gotta do and be like, like that was why. So me and the retrograde are gonna be, it's gonna be interesting having them both retrograde around the same time in the summer, around, again, like I said, our birthday time anyway, because we're already introspective as August Leos, especially like that school time. I'm teaching as well, like having that as a title is also a thing, and it's like, yeah, like I'm gonna be sitting with Saturn and Neptune, like, what else have I started that I didn't finish? Okay, all right, reassessing. I'll check again. But Mercury too, I'm just gonna be like, oh my gosh, Mercury. Venus is going retrograde this year. Already pre-shadow. I didn't want to spend too much time on Venus. Not because I didn't want to, but thank you for bringing up Neptune and Saturn. Because yeah, you're right. I really don't think people have hit, or at least brought up these questions or these thought points, thinking points like we have.
Yeah.
And I hope it spurs more, because yeah, like Uranus too. Like Uranus is maybe in Gemini.
Thing, especially with how information and communication is being restricted currently while it's in Taurus. So that's going to be very interesting because Gemini like the yap. So
Gemini likes to yap, but I'm making some things for my some specials I'm going to be doing on Instagram. Hopefully this week I will unveil them. But I've been in my Canva bag today before we met for this episode. I wrote on for Mercury's Day, like, yes, it's communication, but there's also a sense of connection that I think people forget that Mercury has, because you and I have talked about Virgo and Gemini, not just the Gemini aspect, but there is, let me look really quickly, concentration, commerce, communication, and connection, so there's this, like, people forget about the connection aspect of Geminis and Virgos. They do want to connect.
Yes.
Just communicate it in a different
way. Yep.
So Uranus is already about doing things unconventionally, going against the grain. This is going to be in Gemini, and Gemini's like, I'm communicating because I want to connect. I just want to connect. How are we going to be connecting with each other? Uranus and Gemini, and I wonder.
Isn't Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius going to be trying?
Yeah.
I want to point out that I'm a third house Aquarius, so I want to point that out. I'm going to leave that for the group chat, but
yeah, we'll probably check in when it stations, and we'll be connecting in different ways, right? We'll be using communication hopefully in different ways. Helpful ways for the collective.
Yes. Different portals of how to get information out to people who need to have the information. That sounded like strategy. It sounded like strategic communication.
Right.
I happen to have a master's in strategic communication. I don't tell people I have a master's degree.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Giving strategic communication is what it's giving.
Just saying.
Throw that out there.
Just saying. And that's why too, like, I meant it, like, us doing a retreat would be really nice. I don't know how that would work with the state of the way that the world is, but it can be online. It will
work out those details.
We'll work out the details, but I do, yes, with Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini, yeah. change is going to come. It may not be what certain people want or think or whatever, but it's
coming. That's going to be an interesting time. That might be another episode. We may check in and tackle Uranus and Gemini. What does that look like for the collective as it's going to be trine Pluto and Aquarius? How does that work? What are some key moments that we should be aware of? How should we be thinking about what you said, communication, commerce, connection? How do we think about the 3 C's as Uranus and Gemini begins to approach? So that might be the next episode of our Astrology Talk on the Muses Lab podcast.
Yes.
Kailyn Davillier, Minister Kailyn Davillier.
I love it. I love hearing the title now. I think it's where I need to be.
Growing.
Yeah, I love it. Alrighty. Well, this was great. This was a nice deep dive.
Yes, it was. This was a great deep dive. Really excited to see how all of this unfolds. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Muses Lab podcast. Until we meet again.
Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TML community at www.themuseslab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and until next time.